Hi, thank you very much for joining our podcast again today. My name's Nick from Granada Estate Agency. This podcast is all about purchasing, selling, and moving to Spain. Okay. Today, our subject is going to be all about visas, and joining us on our podcast is Alex Radford from My Lawyers in Spain, who's a recommended solicitor and is going to be telling us all about the different types of visas. Thank you very much for joining us, Alex, today.
Certainly, yeah. First of all, Nick, thank you very much for inviting me to join you today. I'm an English solicitor and Spanish lawyer. I grew up in Spain. My parents moved out to Spain in 1981. Spain wasn't a member of the EU then. They joined in 1985. And I went to school. I went to an English school here and then a Spanish school, and then went back to the UK in 92 to go to university. I went to the University of East Anglia, spent a year at the University of Salamanca studying Spanish law, and started practicing as a lawyer in 1999 in Exeter. And then basically, as as a fluent Spanish speaker, a lot of people coming up to me asking me about Spanish legal matters, and we were acting for clients buying property in Spain and dealing with personal injury accidents in Spain. I got a job offer to move out to Spain. So I did that, Nick. I moved out to Spain in 2003. And since then, I've opened up My Law in Spain, and we have offices across Spain. Our head office is in Marbella, in the Costa del Sol. And we have other offices in Benalmádena and Torre del Mar. And further up the coast, we have an office in Ciudad Quesada, which is near Torrevieja in Alicante, and Javia. Those are our own offices. And then we have associated offices in Bilbao, Madrid, Valencia, Mallorca, Tenerife, and Galicia. And we act for international clients buying, selling, inheriting property in Spain, helping them with their taxes, and also moving to Spain. So all aspects of visas.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's a very well-established company.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So, Alex, we just really want to get a basic understanding of different types of visas that people need to apply for in Spain. So my first question is basically, without a visa, how long can you stay in Spain?
All right. So if you're a non-European, then you can come in and to Spain, and your passport gets stamped as you come in, and you can spend 90 days in 180 days. So after the 90 days, you've got to leave.
Right. What happens if you don't?
Okay. So if you don't leave, then that could result in uncomfortable conversations at the border when you leave, and also you could be. So we have had situations where people have outstayed their 90 days, and they've been reprimanded at the consulate, at the border when they go back through, if they notice the 90 days, and generally, Nick, it means that if you're not here legally, then you can't apply for a visa. So we had a client who wasn't aware at all that he was restricted to 90 days, and he bought a property and then wanted to apply for a visa, and he couldn't get it because he was here illegally. So he's actually got to leave the country, leave for 90 days, and then come back when he's allowed to do so. So it's really important that you do keep in touch and count up the days that you're here. And it's not 90 nights, it's 90 days. So if you fly in on a Friday and fly out on a Saturday, that's considered 2 days.
Right.
So a lot of our clients will download EU Schengen calculators and add the days in there, so they know how many days they've done or haven't done.
Right. Okay. So with the visas, I know there's a few different types of visas you can apply for. Can you talk us through the different types?
Yeah, certainly. So the most popular visa is the non-lucrative visa. So that means that you are retiring. You want to spend more than 90 days in 180 days. You're retiring to Spain. You won't be working, and in effect, you apply for that visa from your home country. Okay, so we have a lot of international clients. They will help them with the paperwork. Typically, Nick, they'll need a Spanish address, residence in their own country. They'll need private or public medical insurance depending on their ages. They'll need a medical certificate with specific wording. They're not suffering from any nasty World Health Organization illnesses. A clean criminal record certificate. And if they're married or have children, they'll need marriage and birth certificates respectively. And then it comes down to financial resources as well. And that, for a non-lucrative visa, it can be a combination of pension income, income from rental properties or savings, but obviously not from working, because you're not allowed to work. And for a single applicant, they need to basically have 28,800 euros in a bank account, and for a married couple, it's 36,000.
Okay.
And they get their visa. The visa is granted for 1 year, and when they come to Spain, within basically 30 days, they've got to apply for the TIE card, which is the card for foreigners, foreigners identification card, which we can help them with that. Have to book appointments at the police station, go down, take their photographs, they get their fingers printed onto their card. And then that TIE card lasts for a year. Once that expires, they've got to renew it, and they've got to prove, Nick, that they've got double those financial resources coming in, or that they're still coming in. So if you've got a pension income, say 20,000 per year, and you can prove that you've still got that coming in, and you're a single applicant, you've got to prove 28,800, then you've only got to prove, say, savings of 8,800 per year. Okay, so you don't have to have the lump sum. You've got to prove that that money's coming in. But in effect, the second year, the visa is granted for a 2-year period.
Right. Okay.
So that's the non-lucrative visa. That's probably the most popular.
I've got a quick question on that one as well.
Yeah.
So I had a client the other day, and they were looking at purchasing a property that they could live in and also rent a couple of rooms out.
Yeah.
Now, they were looking at the non-lucrative visa, but if you buy a property and get the non-lucrative visa, and then also you're renting a room or something in your own property, is that allowed on the non-lucrative visa as a passive income?
Right. So but it's interesting. It's a very good point. I mean, in effect, the answer is yes and no. You're not allowed to work. So basically, a British person or a non-European can buy a Spanish property, not be a resident, and rent out their property, right?
Yeah.
And they'll have a local agency to do that. If they bought that property and rented rooms out, and they weren't involved in the work, so to speak, then that would be legitimate, and they could do that. But as you know, most people will actually clean up themselves, etc. So that's a bit of a grey area. But most of our clients have done that, and they have not had any issues.
Right. Okay.
So the next visa is the digital nomad visa, and that basically, that visa came in a couple of years ago now, and it's anyone who is working for a company in a non-European country now, and they are. Their company allows them to work from Spain. So there's sufficient IT systems in place for them to work from here to do their job, and their company authorizes them to do that. The company has had to have been in existence for more than 12 months, and they basically have had to have had a business relationship with the company for at least 3 months. Okay. We apply for that visa from here in Spain. We submit it online. The non-lucrative visa gets submitted in the home country of the applicant. The digital nomad is submitted online, and that takes about 20 days to come back.
Okay, that's really quick on that one.
That one's quite quick. And then basically the other quite popular one, Nick, is we might have a non-European married to say someone with an Irish passport. So typically, what we would do, or another, an EU national. So the paperwork is similar. They've got to have money in the bank account. They've got to have private medical insurance in place. And what we would normally do is arrange for the EU applicant to apply for residency at the police station here in Spain, get their residency, and then their spouse, and it has to be a spouse, not just someone they lived with or a partner, etc. It has to be a spouse or children, dependent children. They will then piggyback off that person's EU residency and they'll get residency as well. And the financial resources for an EU resident are less than a non-EU. So typically, the minimum amount per person is 7,300 euros. But one of the consistent things about Spain, Nick, and you'll come across this and I appreciate that, is its inconsistency. So depending on the police station, depending on the town hall or the foreigners office, they may ask for different documents and different amounts of money in your bank account. So
Right. Okay.
as a minimum, we'd say, look, if you're applying for EU residency for two people, have at least 15,000 euros in a Spanish bank account and or other bank accounts. Yeah.
Okay. So a question is, for instance, say if me, for instance, I'm married to a Spanish girl. Okay.
Yeah.
So if my father from England wanted to come over and live here, is this easier for him to apply for a visa because I'm a Spanish resident?
No, I mean, basically, it's a separate application. He's got to prove that he's got sufficient financial resources to live on in Spain, and he'd have to
Yeah.
apply for himself. So, in effect,
Yeah.
if he's not going to be working, he would apply for the non-lucrative visa.
Right. Okay. So it doesn't really make any difference.
Yeah. Yeah. If
Okay.
if if your father was dependent on you, then that would be a different matter. But he'd have to prove, or you would have to prove that he is dependent on you. So, that you've got phone bills, electric bills in each other's name, in the same name, with the same
Right.
address,
Okay.
um, and financially that he's dependent on you to look after him as well. So he might be financially dependent on you, and then you've got to look after him for physical reasons. So, and it's up to you to prove that.
Yeah. A quick one, going back to the digital nomad visa, is so if you're working obviously online in Spain, when you get paid, where would you pay tax?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, with the digital nomad visa, if you're an employee, then you can actually apply for the Beckham regime. And typically it's really a benefit to someone who's earning more than 50,000 euros plus. But they can apply for the Beckham regime, and they would pay tax of up to 24%. Right? So it's
Right.
a set fee of 24% up to 600,000 euros. And after that, obviously, they'll pay more. But their company will continue to pay social security for them in their home country.
Right. Okay. But then they'd be taxed in Spain.
They'll be taxed in Spain. And what's
Right.
interesting about this visa is that they only get taxed on the income that they generate. So if they sold a property in their home country, sold some shares, that would be taxed in their home country. But the income is taxed here in Spain.
Okay. If say a client wants to start up a private limited company in Spain, an SL company,
Yeah.
do they need a visa to do that?
Well, so basically, Nick, so non-Europeans, in order for them to work in Spain, need a work visa, right?
Yeah.
And they have to apply for that work visa from their home consulate. So if someone came to Spain and said, "Oh, look, I like that dog grooming business, dog grooming and dog kenneling business. It's profitable, it's legitimate. I'd like to invest in that." Then they've basically got to put a business plan together and submit that to the Spanish consulate in their home country and say, "This is what I want to do. This is the amount of money I'm going to invest. Please give me a visa to that effect." And then it'd be down to the Spanish consulate to do that. And that of course, can take quite some time. So we have active clients going down the working visa route. But because the last one we dealt with it took 9 months. So it's a long time to get that visa through. By the time you actually get it through, presumably, in all likelihood, the seller of that business has sold it to someone else.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. 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 'Cause it
so
can take
so
quite
really,
long.
the employment visas that we've completed and obtained for clients typically are for self-employed individuals who are coming out here with a special skill. So, for example, we acted for clients who we acted for a client who was a singer and she wanted to come out to Spain and work here. So again, that one took about 9 months to come through, and we got her the visa. But again, it just takes time. It's costly, and you've got to basically apply for that work visa from the Spanish consulate where you live.
Right. Okay. Can you give us an example of, say, how much does it cost to apply for the non-lucrative visa and the digital nomad visa?
Yeah, so I mean, much depends, Nick, on, for example, non-lucrative visa. Is it a single applicant, married couple, or do they have children? But
Okay.
typically, I'd say, and the same with the digital nomad visa. So, because basically on the digital nomad visa, you can come to, so the main applicant comes to Spain, and the spouse can come to Spain as well, and the children, and each of them would need a visa too. And the spouse can actually work on the back of the visa of the main applicant. But I'd say you're looking at a non-lucrative visa for a couple, you're looking at about €2,000. And then on top of that, you're going to pay the application fees, you're going to pay translation fees, because marriage certificate needs to be translated, criminal record certificates need to be translated, medical certificates need to be translated. So you're looking at, I'd say, for a married couple, up to say €4,000. There'll be change out the €4,000. Digital nomad visa, I'd probably say similar amounts. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Alex, for answering our questions today. I think we've given people a basic start to looking into the visas.
Yeah.
So if you want to contact Alex, you can find his link in the comments section, okay, to his website. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you very much, Nick. See you next time.
See you. So thank you very much to Alex Radford for joining us today from Milo's in Spain. It's been really informative, and hopefully we've given people a basic understanding of visas and the application process. If you'd like to speak to Alex and you've got any more questions for him, or you want him to help in your application for the visa, you can see his link below. Thank you very much. We look forward to speaking to our next guest next week, where we'll be talking all about different types of mortgages in Spain. That's all from us today. Thank you very much for joining us.